Hello, it's Hushi again, and I'm here to talk extemporaneously today about creative works. I was inspired by the work of a colleague and friend, Dr. David Rick, who had just done an article on essentially plot holes, consistency, and coherency in creative works. And it's something that I've actually thought about for a long time and said for a long time, and that is the fact that creative works, especially art, fiction, comics, sequential art, things like that, they are a participatory exercise, not a dictatorial one. It's one of the reasons why I absolutely despise the obsession with Canon, and I'm using finger quotes. You can't see me, but I'm using finger quotes. But there's this tremendous obsession with Canon, what we are dictated by the person who is either controlling the intellectual property, which I'm also doing finger quotes for, or just the author. But the thing is, everybody has different experiences in life. Everybody's perception and perspective is unique and shaped by the things that happen to that person in their life. You can no more dictate how someone interprets a creative work than you can tell the weather what to do. It simply is not an option. You can attempt to shape and direct the way they interpret a work, but everybody's going to have a different interpretation of the work, and they should. Otherwise, you're just shouting into the void. If you are not engaging people, holding out your hand for them to take, and allowing them to come into this world that you have created, this tapestry you've woven of a story, then they're not going to have an investment in it, and it's frankly probably not going to be very good. And as Dr. Rick has used an excellent quote from J.R.R. Tolkien's essay on fairy stories, I'm going to share it with you here. Children are capable, of course, of literary belief when the storymaker's art is good enough to produce it. That state of mind has been called willing suspension of disbelief. What really happens is that the storymaker proves a successful sub-creator. He makes a secondary world which your mind can enter. Inside it, what he relates is true. It accords with the laws of that world. The moment disbelief arises, the spell is broken. The magic, or rather art, has failed. You are in the primary world again, looking at the little abortive secondary world from outside. If you are obliged by kindness or circumstance to stay, then disbelief must be suspended or stifled, otherwise listening and looking would become intolerable. But this suspension of disbelief is a substitute for the genuine thing. A subterfuge we use when condescending to games or to make-believe, or when trying, more or less willingly, to find what virtue we can in the work of an art that has for us failed. Now, there are many ways to look at this and many ways to interpret even this, but essentially I feel that it is one of those things that supports what I'm saying, that it must be a participatory rather than a dictatorial thing, and that you must create a space for someone else to meet you there. The world is your own, and you are essentially God for that primary world that you create. You have a secondary world that is between you and whoever is experiencing your creative work. And you must form that bond with someone else. The great thing is that even if the writer or the creative force, the artist, whatever, even if that person isn't there with you, and even if it's impossible for them to ever be there with you, you can still connect with them, and that is a fantastic, spectacular thing. We transcend time and space. We transcend even reality in this experience. To take that out of someone's hands by dictating is one of the greatest atrocities possible. It should not ever be done. You should not ever take that away from someone when you are creating something like a story, a series, a film, a comic. And this obsession with subverting expectations, I'm doing the finger quotes again, but subverting expectations, it is simply not enough in and of itself. Subverting expectations just for the sake of putting in a twist and shocking people, that doesn't add to anything. If anything, it demolishes the secondary world where you want to meet the people halfway and have them experience something, and from then on out it is just a generosity, a kindness that they are paying to your creation, and it's one that is not paid back to them by what you are doing. I'll put a link in the description if you'd like to visit Dr. Rick's blog and read his article. It is absolutely excellent, and it's very concise, very efficient in writing. He is a much greater intellectual than I am, and he is a fantastic rhetorician, wonderful at analysis of fiction and writing, and I would really like more people to listen to the creative voices like Dr. Rick, and really in many ways like a lot of what Tolkien wrote. He was very big on consistency and very big on the burden of creativity being the heavy lifting that creators do, inviting others to come into their world and experience it with them, not to have someone there that you can just talk at without them being a part of what you are talking about. Even if you have decided everything down to the fine detail of how you're telling your story yourself, there are things that you cannot cover. You cannot possibly convey every single detail of your world, even a totally wholly created, holistic world, consistent with itself, so you have to have the help of people that are experiencing this to create the rest of it in their minds. When I do a comic, obviously, I cannot attach, for example, music to it, unless I make a video out of the comic. And in that particular case, I'm not just doing a comic anymore, I'm doing more of a multimedia production. But because my main medium is comics, I create the comics. I usually do black and white, because if I were to do color for every comic, I would go insane. But it is in these ways that we connect with the people experiencing what we create. When someone reads a comic of mine, they are giving, in their mind, the particular tone of voice to characters, the timbre, the way that they speak, sometimes even the emphasis on words, because I don't emphasize with bold every time that someone has pressure on a word, because it would sound ridiculous. I also choose the angles that form every single panel of my comics, and through that I try and build a world that they can believe in and develop on their own once I have presented them with a greater image. I establish the setting, and the rest is up to them to interpret as I tell the story that I want to focus on. All of the other things that may not be relevant to the main story at the time is up to the audience to experience and to fill out if it so moves them to do so. I feel truly like I've succeeded if someone wants to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I feel that this obsession with Canon has also stifled creativity in a lot of ways. There are a lot of people that don't feel like they can do fan fiction, fan art, or even interpret it even a different way. Even if they're not doing their own work, they feel afraid and forbidden to interpret it in their own ways, even though they should be doing that anyway. Everyone's perspective, I say again, is unique. Everybody has different things that happen in their lives, and sure, there are plenty of people that are basically the same and sleepwalking all the time, but if you're actually going to take this and experience it and digest it, even if you're just consuming entertainment or what you see as entertainment, you have to acknowledge that your point of view is unique. The way that you are engaging and interfacing with this is unique. This obsession with what copyright has become, which is not, I might add, what it was intended to be, is really stifling, and it's one of the reasons why I have always, and probably will always, but I have always hated the obsession with, oh, I own this, I own this, I own this. I would be overjoyed if someone took, say, Incubus Tales and did a little fanfiction or something. I was always just beyond delighted when someone would take the characters and depict them in their own style or medium. It tells me so much about what another person is getting out of it and how they perceive something. It shows me their point of view and their perspective, which really, that's what we're all trying to do with art. We're presenting our point of view and giving you our hand to take so that we can show you more of how we see the universe and how we interface with it. It's why it's also so frustrating when you get people that want you to basically just ape someone else's style or something like that. Artists are not forgers by nature. If you want me to do a forgery of someone else's style, you're barking up the wrong tree. An artist develops their own style. You can get influenced by other styles. You can be certainly led to develop along certain lines, by other styles, other artists, other stylistic movements. But even if you were to look back at any artistic movement, the individual artists in that movement all have something very different going on. But I may talk about that at some other point. I hope you've found this enjoyable and interesting, and I hope it stimulated a little bit of thought about creativity, canon, and how we all experience creative works, fiction, art, and all the things like that. But I'll see you again. You're welcome. Bye.